All right, welcome to How to Create a Speech with a Wow Factor, presented by Lisa Bianco. My name is Karen and I work at the Spencer Road branch. This class is being presented again by the District 8 Toastmasters in Eastern Missouri and Southwestern Illinois. Toastmasters International mission is to empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. District 8, founded in 1940, provides members with a supportive atmosphere in which to develop their communication and leadership skills.
Hello, my name is Kathy, and I work at the Mindorf-Credell branch of the St. Charles City County Library. Toastmasters isn't a class, but an experience featuring a Learn by Doing program. We teach the skills of running a meeting, giving prepared speeches, providing and receiving feedback, speaking without preparation, and holding an office. Beyond the club, we also conduct special fun events such as speech contests and conferences. Please visit the website www.district8tm.org for more information. We will add this information to the chat.
All right, Lisa, welcome. As a life coach for entrepreneurs, Lisa Bianco helps her clients create speeches that will not only wow their audience, but also help them establish themselves as an expert in their field. The biggest fear that many people have is being judged and not receiving a reaction from the audience. Tonight, you will eliminate that fear by learning how to engage your audience by creating a speech with a wow factor. So take it away, Lisa.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for being patient with our technical difficulties. Actually, I was supposed to do this one in person and it got scheduled back to Zoom with COVID. So maybe I was meant to do it in person. I don't know. It's been a while. Well, anyway, anyone here today that wants to give a speech and are struggling and how to put it all together? Yes, no, maybe? Well, let's just say that you are. Does any of these sound like you when you want to create a speech? Like you start procrastinating, you talk yourself out of it, then you never give the speech and the people never benefit of what you have to say. So you lose and the future audience loses. So today we want to make that lose-lose situation into a win-win. So today I'm going to share with you, first, there's this one skill that creates an engaging presentation. So if you learn this one skill, there's no way you can fail. We're going to start off with that, and then we're going to show how to develop an outline. So everything is neat and organized and everything kind of just flows. And last, we're going to tell you how to create content that actually engages and wows your audience. So let's first start out with the one thing is the W in wow is what's in it for me? How do we create value? It's nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with the audience and how you create value to the audience. They spend time out of your day, just like you did today, to come hear what you have to speak. And if you come and you talk all about yourself and nothing about what the audience is going to learn, you're not creating value. So everything that you do in your speech, you want to do it by creating value. And that kind of takes the pressure off you as a speaker, because it's not about you at all. It's all about the audience. So when you think that way, that it's not about you, it's about the audience, the fear kind of subsides because it has nothing to do with the speaker. Kind of weird. That's one of the things I've learned at Toastmasters. And when I heard this, it was a game changer for me. I was like, oh, that's why. Because when you have fear, now nervousness is normal. Everybody has that. And when you're nervous, it just means you care. But when you have that fear, you're making it all about you. Now, when you don't have that fear, you take action, and then it's all about the audience. That's how you can tell the difference if you're making it about you or the audience. So I can speak from experience on that. I had a big fear of public speaking. I was just not good at it. And when I had my professional organizing business, I get asked a lot to speak about organizing. And I would say, no, no, I just don't speak, I'll give it to another organizer. So I was giving business away. I was turning down opportunities because I had this big fear of public speaking. I was making it all by myself. And then when I learned that it's really not about you, it's all about the information that you're giving and what the value that another person is going to learn from you, it just twisted everything around. It just made it so much easier. So you always want to think, what's in it? Think of the audience thinking it, what's in it for me? That's what they're there for. It's nothing to do with you. And then I realized I do have something of value to offer an audience. And the fear just goes away. It does take practice. There's more than that, but that's just a main thing. And it's not about you. Also, you want to inform, not impress. I was at a speech once. I don't know, you probably could relate to this. The girl got up, and there was two girls. They were speaking about publishing books, and it was at a conference. And there were two publishers. They both did the same job, and they're both up there trying to, get people to sign with that, publisher or this publisher. And the first publisher gets up, and her PowerPoint was spectacular. It was like Star Wars. It was beautiful. And everything was on point. She was dressed to the nines. And you're like, wow, that's really impressive. But she started like making fun of the audience, kind of like she had somebody in the audience. She's like, well, if Max can write a book, anybody can. And everybody was just like looking at each other like, what is she doing? And then you were going to publish your book with me, then you went with somebody else. She was making it all about herself. So how would you feel when you go to a presentation? Like everybody was just looking at each other. We did not, we were not, she was trying to be impressive. And she was supposed to be there to inform. Now the other publisher came up and she was very informative. She did not make it about herself. Her presentation was just standard. But she made it out like, I am going to help you do this. And this is how we're going to get it done. She was very informative. So you want to think about that. You're there to inform, not to impress. If you're up there to just impress people on how great you are, it's not going to work a lot of times. So you want to think of what's in it for the audience. So how do you create value for an audience? First thing is know your audience, know who you're speaking to. You don't want to speak on one subject. Like I know a lot of people, the speakers give this example. You don't want to, if they're vegetarian, you don't want to be talking about meat all the time and how great meat is. So you want to think of that, know who your audience is. So that makes it just so much easier. If you're talking to your audience on what they want to hear, that's, a big part of the way to create value. Are they going to learn something? What are they going to learn? It gives you credibility, makes you an expert, gives you authority when you think of something, because you have a lot of knowledge in you. That's why you're public speaking. So what are they going to learn from you? Do you want them to say, wow, she knows her stuff? Make a change in their life. A behavior change, make it easy. I think of weight loss. A lot of times people lose like 50, 100 pounds, and they say how they did it and how you have to change your behaviors and what you did. So what can they do? How can they change their life? What did you learn or experience that you can help that person change their life? Change their way of thinking. So what do you want the audience to think, do, or feel differently after you speak to them? Like saying, I never thought that way before. I can see her view on that. A lot of times people have their beliefs, and the beliefs aren't going to change with one presentation, but just maybe plants a nugget in their brains. It's like, I never thought of it that way. Inspire them to take action. So do you have like a system or a plan that you mastered and you want to teach it to others and inspire them to act by making it easy? That's a big one, how to create value. Also, give them hope with your story. Everybody has a story. And when they see that you're speaking and it shows that it's possible, like, well, if she did it, I can do it too. So you want to give them hope. People love to hear a story, how they overcame an obstacle or how they mastered something, and then they know they can do the same. When you create value, you're guaranteed success. So know your audience, have them learn something, make a change in their life, change their way of thinking, inspire them to act, and give them hope with your story. It's that simple. Okay, so now we moved on to the O in WOW. So outline for an organized flow. So the first thing you want to do when you're creating your speech is to brain dump, as what's called. Just get everything out of your head. So you want it to, just write. It could be on your computer, it can be on a piece of paper. You just want to do free flow. There's no editing. There's nothing perfection. You just want to get it all out. Because once it's all out in one place, you can kind of see a draft forming. Because once you have that original draft, that's just your non-edited, free-flowing brain dump, then you can kind of see where you want to go and make your second draft. So in your second draft, you want to think, how long do I have to speak? So do I need to shorten this, or do I need to add more? And it's always best to pare down and then to add more if you're kind of on the cusp, because we're going to talk about this later, but you never want to go over time, because you always can feel it with questions or conversations, but always go on the side of caution, to pare down, to focus on the main points, because your brain can only take so much information. Then you can start editing. This is all done before you do your outline. Then in your outline, there'll be your flow, because you want to have like an organized flow. You're going to have the beginning, and then you have your 3 points, and then you have your close. We're going to go over the outline in just a minute, but you want that flow. You don't want to be all in different directions, because then the client, your audience is going to go all those different directions with you, and then you're not going to create that wow factor. You want to stay on topic. So today I'm talking about, creating a speech with the wow factor. If I started going off on how to create a wonderful PowerPoint presentation, you're going to be very confused. So you want to always stay on the topic that you said you were going to talk about, and give the 3 things like I did in the beginning on what you're going to learn. You want to stay with that topic, because a lot of times you start on one thing, we go to another, we get very confused. And the audience, if you're confused, the audience is going to be confused also. Okay, so this is the outline. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do with your outline is have a title. So you want a title that generates curiosity and excitement. So what title? So after you've written everything down, you did your second draft, and now you're going to get into that outline. Kind of look at what some of the words you've written down, and how can you create curiosity and excitement? Can you ask a question, or you want to take something from the body that you're going to and speak to the audience, and who you're going to attract to come to your speech. The opening. So you want powerful words to get their attention. It could be a question, it could be a statement, it could be a statistic, because this is what's going to set the tone. Because one second. Real fast, 10 seconds. If you have 10 seconds, that's what they say, to grab somebody's attention. You want those words to be powerful to get their attention. And you also could tell them what you're going to tell them to in the opening. But first you want to ask that question, say a statement, maybe a statistic, or a quote is really good too. And then you have your transition. So let's begin with also, but, consider, finally, later. Those are just some. There's plenty more. But you want to make it a transition to know where you're going. We're beginning, we're ending. We're kind of one more thing. And then the body. That's your main points. You kind of want to stick it to 3 in a presentation, because that's what your brain can handle, is 3 main points. And then under the main points, you can have your subpoints, which is your stories, your statistics. Now they can be more than 3, but just have 3 main points, like today's speech is wow. So W-O-W, I'm going to give you 3 main points, but I have, these subpoints, the outline, and showing you how to do the outline. And the conclusion is reinstating the main points. And this is where you ask questions, ask for if there's anybody have any questions. But you want to reinstate the main points because they just heard a lot of information, and then you're just, reinforcing it. And then this is where you ask for questions. And then you close. Because if you ask for questions at the closing and just end it with questions, it doesn't tie it up into like a neat, tiny bow. And so what if somebody asks a question that you don't know the answer and you have to get back to them, and that's the last impression they have with you. So in the closing, you want to, give them an action step or a challenge, and it should go back to your opening. So whatever you said in your opening that you're going to do, and then you can challenge them at the end at your closing. So the outline, I have a sheet of paper. It's just like this. So you have your opening, you have your transition statement, your body, your main point, your subpoints, and then your transition, main point, subpoint, transition, main point, subpoint, transition, then your conclusion, and then your closing. The last W, ways to win over and engage your audience. Time. So like I said before, you have to be really careful on your time. You don't want to go over because they're there, spending some of their valuable time to come here. You don't want to waste it. And at Toastmasters, we actually have a timer. Time is very important. We have a timer for all our speeches. And when you go over, you don't win. We do, if we judge you. And even if you're into contests, it's very important when you see that red light to wrap it up. And also, if you're at a conference, you're speaking at a conference, there's somebody that might be speaking after you, and it's very disrespectful when they come in and you already went over time. Or don't you hate it when you have a PowerPoint and they have for a 20-minute presentation they have 50 slides, and then they're rushing through the slides and they're like, oh yeah, that was good. Oh, that was good too. Oh, sorry, you missed that one. So you feel like you're cheated. So that's not a way to engage and create a wow factor for a speech. So you really want to be careful with your time. Pauses. You pause instead of so, And also at Toastmasters, we have, called a grammarian. And they count your ums and your ahs and your nos and your sos. And it's just to bring awareness. Because a lot of the time, it's just a filler word. So what we get in the habit of is just to pause. A lot of times we don't like to be silent. But with the pause helps us, our brain to reset instead of saying the and the and the And when you are in Toastmasters, you become like a Toastmaster, kind of like a snob when it comes to ums and ahs. Because every time you hear a speech now and you hear the ums, you're counting people's ums and their ahs. And you're like, join Toastmasters. Okay. Memorize versus internalize. Okay, so one of the first speeches I did at Toastmaster, I memorized it. And then I was so nervous that I forgot it all because it's all in your memory. It's all in your head. When internalize, you go to your heart. So it's much better when a speech is given from your heart and it's authentic instead of from your memory. Because when it's from your memory and you get nervous, you'll just go blank. Even if you had notes, it's just all jumbled. You're like, believe me, it happens. But when you internalize it, that's what helps with stories. When you know a story and you're telling the story and it's coming from the heart and authentic, that's a way to really win over and engage your audience because they can feel it. You're making them feel something. You're telling a story instead of just reciting a memory. Tell stories. People really engage with stories. You do have positive, they relate more when you have a story because they're like, oh, they went through it too. I can go through it also. If they survived, I can survive too. If they can do it, I can do it too. Stories give people possibility. It's like, oh, if it's possible for them, it's also possible for me. So think of some stories that you can tell. One of my first speeches, it was like a 90-minute speech in a conference. I was like, oh my God, they're trying to kill me. 90 minutes? I'm just starting. I was still a little nervous, but I think it was like one of my first conferences. I was like, how can I engage the audience? So let's keep us some stories. So I had people go on their cell phone and I had them pick a picture and have them come up and talk about 2 minutes story. Because I wanted to show them that they can talk to anything if they have a story. So it ended up being really great because everybody started telling stories from a picture on their phone, and people like to talk about themselves. So I created an experience where it was very interactive and they had these awesome stories, and it showed that they can get up and speak without being nervous when it came from their heart, just about the memorized and the internalized. So think of some stories that you can, when you write your speech, when you do your brain dump, think of some stories that can relate to what you wrote. Eye contact. Eye contact is very important because you don't want to be a talking head, right? They don't want to see your head all the time. So eye contact is very important, but you don't want to, just be scanning either, because that doesn't connect. So you want to have a point. You look at an audience member. So if you're in person, not on Zoom, you look at the audience member and you say that point, and then the next point, make eye contact and you say it, and you just keep going around the room. You kind of want to get everybody in the room, and then when you're just generally speaking, you kind of just want to go around the room. So people want to be included, because I know a lot of times when I used to speak, they're like, you didn't look at me at all. So if you don't look at that person, you're not engaging with that person. So find some friendly faces in the audience and make some eye contact. It's very powerful and very engaging. Like I said with the stories, you want to do audience interaction. A lot of times on Zoom, if you've been on enough Zoom calls, they have, the chat rooms, which are good. Or if you're doing, in person, especially say, hey, you and your neighbor get together and give them like a question. And then they get to know the person and the audience, and they get to know other people, and people like to interact and then ask them their opinion. Well, what did you learn from this? So audience interaction, especially if we have a really long speech, is very, very helpful and useful. Practice. Practice. Well, the thing about practicing, you can get all the kinks out, right? You can get all those little things, maybe you didn't want to pronounce something correctly or different things like that. So practicing, and then the timing is very important. Sometimes it goes longer or shorter than you think it is. So it's very important to practice. You can practice in front of a mirror, you can practice in front of your phone and, tape yourself and then watch it over. I know a lot in Toastmasters, when we speak, we get feedback. We have an evaluator, because you can't see yourself speaking. So when somebody evaluates you, and then you take that feedback and you apply it to another speech, but they see things that you don't see. A lot of times it's hand gestures or your tone of the voice, or I didn't move a lot. So then every speech you can work, get your feedback and work up, work on what they told you to work on. Nothing, have fun. I know in the beginning it wasn't fun for me. It was like death, right, to speak, but have fun, smile. It's not bad. And you just think what the audience is learning from you. So this is the wow factor. So the W, it's what's in it for me. You want to create value. Create value is key, right? And then do your outline. So you have your title, opening, body, subpoints, conclusion, and closing. And especially the last W is ways to win, over engage your audience. Everything that we just went over. So I guess it is time for us to interact and have some questions. That is just the general of everything on how to create a wow factor, but I can make it personalized to you if you have any questions or anything, if you have a speaking engagement coming up and you want some pointers. So we can open it up for questions now.
And you can chat those in, or if you want to unmute yourself, feel free.
Right.
Okay, maybe no questions.
Yeah. You want to state why you came, what, something you learned today, or, why you came on this call. Like, do you have a speech coming up?
Gunika says, can the same points be used for debates?
Well, yeah, because you just, you want to flow, right? So so when they ask a question, you want to think. So in Toastmasters, we have table topics, and so you have to think on your feet. They ask a question, you think on your feet. So you state, you restate the question, and then, you can give, what depends on how many. I never debated, so I really don't know what the process is. But if you give 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, but you want to give your point, and then, you have your opening, 3 points, 1 point, 2 point, and then conclude. So I would say, be an effective way.
I'd like to comment, if I may, about debates.
Mm-hmm.
When I started Toastmasters, we did do some debating, and I think what is so important with that is to know your material very well. And that is, and you're not doing as much with storytelling as you are with knowing your material very well. And just to keep in fact, what we did to learn the other person's side was we were told to select the side that we disagree with and try to argue based on that. And it turned out being pretty funny in a way, because you're saying things that you truly don't believe, but you try to be, it helps, it stretches your mind to be a little more open-minded that way. And, but everything else I think is very much applicable. Knowing your audience is definitely helpful.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you have any comments, Lisa, on adjusting to different ages of audiences? Like perhaps if you're talking to people that are 20 or 30 years younger than you, how you want to make sure that you're doing the best you can to connect with them?
Yes, you want to, like they say, you want to be able to talk, to like a fifth grader. So you want to be very clear. You don't want to talk like in acronyms, especially with different age groups. There's different, another age group has, we all have kind of our slang language for different age groups. So you want to make sure you're talking to that audience and that they know, the words that you're using. But you want to keep, so if you keep it simple, like you're talking to a fifth grader that everybody can use, that would be a good idea. Or trying to think what else. A lot of my clients, we speak, they are much older than me. So we just keep it simple words. Don't use acronyms, don't use, nicknames for things. You want to talk slow and clear. Whatever, you have to consider what the audience needs. Because I used to speak at, senior living homes, and yeah, you want to make sure, well, that would be in person too. So before COVID, right? So they want to make sure they're close to you because they have trouble hearing, and they like to ask questions. So you always, make sure you have time at the end to explain things to them and different things. And yeah, and they like to talk, they like to share. So you make sure, to wow them, you would probably be like, make sure you have time to share.
Lisa, do you have any tips for Zooming as opposed to an in-person speech? Any differences?
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of differences. In person is so much better. Yeah, Zoom is tough. I know when we first, as Toastmasters, went on Zoom, a lot of people left Toastmasters. They refused to go on Zoom, but you do get used to it. And it's hard to speak. Well, the biggest thing is to speak to the dot on your speak, look at there. Instead of you want to look at the audience, especially, as a speaker, you want to see what they're smiling, not smiling, so you have to look at the dot, not the people, which is hard, but you do get used to doing that. You can make it very interactive. Put them off into rooms, especially if you have an hour and, give them a question, they discuss it, have them come back. So you're not losing people, but you kind of have to do that with a bigger audience. So when you have like, over 10 people, you can, put them in groups of, 5 groups of 2, and then have them discuss different things, come back, and then make it very interactive. And that's how people learn too, is when it's interactive, and people like to share what they learned and different things like that. It's important to, acknowledge everybody too. I know a lot of people, they don't, nobody has a video on, but if that's a rule you have, it doesn't bother me, but especially at night, but if people are tired, like, probably in their pajamas, but you want to, if you're going to make it interactive, say, have everybody put their video on. I know at Toastmasters, we ask everybody put their video on so we can see them and we can interact. Because it's no fun when we're just speaking and, nobody's, smiling back at you. It's hard. But it's much easier in person, right? Because nobody can shut their video off, right? Talking to people, right? You can get interactions and you can get moving around the room. You can do different things. But, I know people are tired of Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a particular area that on Zoom that you wanted a question? The speaking in general? Or...
Yeah, just in general. Does anyone have any final questions for Lisa? Or comments, or maybe what you're preparing for?
Well, if you have any questions, my email's there. And if you want a free guide, I have one, I can email it to you with the outline in it. Just shoot me an email. I'm happy to send that out to you. And this is just only a small taste of how Toastmasters can help you. There's much more to learn in doing a speech, like much more. There's hand gestures, there's, voice tone, there's movement, there's a lot. So, and that's just to name a few. You can learn all these great things, plus get over your fear to become a, confident speaker. So we welcome you to visit a Toastmaster meeting. A lot of them are hybrid. We do meet if you're in the St. Charles area at the new ambulance district, Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. And if you go to our website, there is the Zoom link too, so you can join us at hybrid. But we would love to see you. So I really challenge you to, join us at one of our meetings. You can learn a lot more. That's all I have for you if there's no questions.
All right. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your insight on creating a speech with a wow factor. We thank you for partnering with us and bringing these great resources to the library's viewing customers.
I see a chat here from Ganunka. I am joining a speech and debate club at my school, he says. That's great.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Good luck. It's a good skill. You can learn it, right, in the debate club.
Yes. All right. Is it okay to stop recording, Kathy?
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yes, I will stop the recording.